welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Kim and today we are going to be doing my April reading wrap up. I read a total of 9 books in April. I did not complete my TBR that I planned out. I was 1 book short. I did not end up reading Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. I know I'm behind. I still very much want to read that book and I don't know when I'll get to it. But I did read 9 books. If you watched my TBR video for April, you know that I did like a birthday TBR, since April's my birthday month. And it was really fun. I really liked doing that for my TBR. I read some good books and some okay books, which it was a good mix, I guess. But yeah, so we're going to talk about the books I read today. I'm going to give a little overview. I'm going to keep this spoiler free unless you feel like tropes are spoilers. I might talk about a trope here and there. So if you feel like those are spoilers, you know, just a heads up, I might throw one out here and there. But yeah, so we're going to talk about the 9 books I read in April. So my April TBR was pretty much filled with a lot of my favorite authors, some of my favorite tropes, things like that. But the first book I read in April was Say You'll Remember Me, by Abby Jimenez. This was one of my most anticipated books of the year. I love Abby Jimenez. I've read her Part of Your World series. I haven't read her other series yet. They're on my TBR, my never ever ending TBR. But I was very, very excited to read this one. And it did not disappoint. I have seen mixed reviews for this book, but I personally really loved this. I gave this book 5 stars and I gave it like 1 chili pepper. I think that's, if you're new here, my chili pepper ratings are kind of just a vibe. I don't really even know why I pick what they pick, but I don't remember this being particularly spicy. Like, I know there were probably a couple spicy scenes, but it wasn't over the top. So I think 1 is good. I don't know. So the thing I love about Abby's books are, I feel like they're very real and they're very relatable. They feel like they cover situations that I think a lot of people have found themselves in. And in that, they also hit pretty hard on the emotional level. I didn't cry reading this book, but I've read a lot of people have. I've actually read some people couldn't even finish this book because of the subjects it hits on, which I can understand. Always check your triggers before you read a book. But so this one follows our characters Xavier and Samantha, and they meet, I believe it's in like Milwaukee area. But they meet because Xavier's a vet and Samantha brings in a cat she found. They have like a rocky first interaction, but they end up going on a date and they like really hit it off. But literally the date is like the day before Samantha moves to California. She's moving back to California to help take care of her mother who is suffering from Alzheimer's. So we have like a long distance relationship in this book. I think maybe why people don't love this book is it's not all sunshine and roses. It's not all happy. This book is somewhat sad. And they face a lot of them as a couple and them individually just face a lot of like tough situations. So I think that might also be maybe not everyone's cup of tea, but like I said, I appreciate how real her books feel, that her characters feel. Abby also just writes really good men, okay? Like the men in her books are always very swoon worthy. But I highly, highly recommend this. Like I said, it's, you know, going to be probably an emotional ride for a lot of people, but I think it's really great. I think it's worth reading. So yeah, 5 stars. Probably my first 5, definitely was my first 5-star read of the month because it's the first book I read in April. I don't know if I had any other 5-star reads this month, but yeah, I really love this one. Okay, the second book I read in April was Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas. Obviously, I read this book because it's called Birthday Girl and it was my birthday month. And also because the male main character in this book was 38 years old, which is the age I turned in April. So, Birthday Girl. So I've seen a lot of people love this book. I am not one of them. I gave this book 3 stars and 3 chili peppers. So this book is an age gap, and age gaps are not my favorite, especially large age gaps, which this was. This was a 19-year age gap. Like I said, he is 38 and she is 19. She is also dating his son, okay? These aren't really spoilers. This is all stuff you can find out by just reading the synopsis of the book. I had trouble with this. Like, was this book written bad? No, I wouldn't say it's poorly written. But it just really annoyed me at times. Because the problem I have with age gaps are they don't feel realistic to me. And I get it. It happens in real life. So, but like for me to read it as a book, I just don't get it. Like, what does a 38-year-old man find like have in common with a 19-year-old female? Okay, so the female, Jordan is her name. She is written to be like mature for her age because like she didn't have the best upbringing, and she's like written to be like really, you know, independent and very like responsible and stuff like that, which is fine. I get that. I can understand that. I also was always older, was always mature for my age. So I'm not saying a 19-year-old can't be mature for their age, but like, I don't know. I just have such a hard time thinking like, what would a 38-year-old like have in common with her? And like, even though she's written to be like mature, like there were definitely parts where she like did not make good decisions, which like, fine, she's 19, I get it. But again, what makes him like interested in that? I don't know. And I felt he felt immature at times because of it. I don't know. I guess like that just part, reading that kind of dynamic in a book kind of just like takes me out of the reading experience, because I just like in my head I'm just like, it just borderline's creepy for me, like that someone that old would want to be with someone that young. A lot of times when I read these books, I just like naturally like just age them up in my head so like I could feel better about it. But this book, and like also sometimes like I don't really get why these authors write like such large age gaps, because I don't feel like they're really like that important to the storyline. Like this one, I get it. I understand like it's a big plot point. But sometimes I don't feel like it's a big plot point, and so I'm just like in my head I'm just like, why do the authors do that? Like, because like they tend to write the characters more mature, right? Like these younger characters, and it's just like, well then just age them up. I don't get it. I don't know. I guess I just have, I don't know, I have feelings about age gaps, okay? But yeah, not my favorite. Like I said, a lot of people really love this book. And if you like age gaps, I think maybe, yeah, you probably would like it. Because I just like it. Because I don't, like I said, I don't think it was like a poorly written book, or it wasn't like a boring book. But yeah, I guess it's just, like I said, it's just not for me. I mean, like I said, still gave it 3 stars, which in my opinion doesn't mean it's a bad book. It just means it's kind of like middle of the road. Like, it wasn't horrible to read, but I'll like probably like never really think about it much anymore or want to reread it. It's also, you know, it's just there. It's just, you know, it's just there. It existed and I read it. I think a lot of times 3-star read to me, probably I could see people liking them, maybe loving them. But yeah, it's just that age gap for me just really pulls me out of the experience, because I just start thinking too logically, I guess, like too real world about it. I'm just like, why? Like there's a part where she like throws ice. She like basically throws a tantrum. And like throws ice cream in the washing machine. And I'm just like, I don't know. I don't even know. Like, I don't know. I felt like that was like extra immature. Like not even like 19-year-old, normal, like 19-year-old, behavior. So yeah, I just had a hard time. Like, I guess it was just like inconsistencies like in her personality for me. Like, yeah, she's supposed to be really mature, but then she does like these really dumb things sometimes. So yeah, just, it was fine. The next book I read was called Change of Pace by Kayla Gross. I always rave about Kayla's books, and she, you know, this was another solid book by her. This was her first full-length book, I think, in a little while. I think lately she's been coming out with more and more novellas. She did have a full-length novel come out last year, so I guess she still has like at least full-length once a year. So, but yeah, this was another solid book by her. I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars, 2 chili peppers. Here we have our characters, Jessie and Asher. So Jessie is basically just kind of trying to take control of her life after she's gone through some complications with her Kawasaki's disease. And to do that, she creates a bucket list, and she wants to like get these things, you know, checked off her bucket list and just like really start living her life, right? Because she's had some, you know, like I said, she's been dealing with this disease, and she just doesn't want to like just, you know, sit around and let life happen anymore. She wants to, you know, go out there and do things. And she meets Asher in the beginning of the book, and I won't really go into like too much. I mean, I don't feel like it's too much spoilery how they kind of meet and stuff, but I won't go into too much about it. But he wants to help her, you know, check these things off her list, and so they end up going like on a road trip together to get, you know, accomplish that. I think Asher is a really sweet character, and I liked Jessie. She did annoy me a little bit at points, I have to say. I hate saying that, but she did a little bit. I think it's just because, like, it's one of those things, and I think typically any character that does this kind of will get on my nerves a little bit. It's like when they make a decision, like, involving the other character, like, they make a decision for the other character because they think it's what's best, and instead of, like, letting the other people in the book, like, decide for themselves. I think that's a common, like, plot point in a lot of books, and I always tend to get a little annoyed with those because I'm just like, that's not your decision to make, it's their decision to make. So there was like a part where she kind of like bugged me a little bit when it came to that, but I think it was overall, I mean, it is, I will say, it's kind of funny because actually a lot of people say You'll Remember Me is like insta-lovey. I think that one was more like I guess like a connection. But this one was also like that too, and it's not my favorite. It isn't my favorite when like they're like just automatically obsessed with each other. I like a little bit more build up. So like I know that's just not my kind of a thing. It's not like it's bad or anything like that, but it's not like my favorite. But no, I think this is a really sweet book. Asher and Jessie's connection, I think, is really sweet. And yeah, it's like, I don't know, it's like a fun little like road trip. Basically like a road trip book. So there's like some forced proximity there and things like that. But you know, Asher, I think, is just like a really good compliment for Jessie. He just like wants to help, like I said, he wants to help her mark these things off her bucket list. He's also helps her like kind of shows her how to like stick up for herself and like know her worth and things like that. So I always love a guy like that in books. Yeah, I really enjoyed Change of Pace. I'm usually talking a lot about how spicy Kayla's books are, but this one wasn't like overly spicy. It's like a normal amount of romance book spice, I guess. That's why I only gave it the 2 chili peppers. But yeah, I think a really, like I said, really sweet book, and you know, I enjoyed it. So the first fantasy book I read in April was my next read, which was Phantasma by Kaylee Smith, not Kayla, sorry. Kayla was the last author. Kaylee Smith. I read this because it was my book club's book pick for this time. But I really did enjoy this. So we have like a gothic romantasy here. So I gave this 4 stars and 2 chili peppers. I did really enjoy this. We have in this like trials and games. And I think that was the part I really did love about this book. I felt those are written really well. They were like very entertaining. They were very exciting. And yeah, they were written like, that was definitely my favorite part of this book, especially considering like the last kind of games and trials book I read was Caraval, I think. And like, I felt like the games and trials in that were very, very like low. I feel the opposite about. I think the games and trials were great, but this was lacking in the romance department, in my opinion, just a little bit. And I think that's like my biggest like issue with this book. Now this one's like an adult Caraval because there are, this one is spicy as opposed to that one's not. But I just felt like this was like the relationship in here between the main characters. I don't talk about it too much. I feel like sometimes even saying like the characters, like the couples names in especially fantasy books, like not really, not contemporary romance, but in fantasy books can be a little like spoilery. But yeah, I just felt like the relationship was just very quick. There wasn't a whole lot of development, and I just, again, almost like it's kind of a theme this month, like insta lovey in a sense, where this one is kind of like that. It's like they're just like automatically obsessed with each other, and I'm just like, but why? Like, you don't know each other, like and if you've read it, I don't want to get into any spoilers. Like I get it. I can kind of get it with this one because of something, but like still, I don't know. I just need a little bit more build up in the relationship, a little bit more of me like believing that they would be into each other, because besides you just telling me, like I didn't see it. I didn't experience it. And like I said, I think that is part of the issue. But yeah, like the setting in this book, amazing. Like basically a haunted house we're in, you know, and like I said, I really enjoyed that whole aspect of it. But yeah, just a little lacking in the romance, I think. So I'm actually currently reading the second book to this. So these are technically standalones and interconnected standalones. The second book is called Enchantra, and I'm reading it right now. A lot of people say it's better. They like it a lot better than this one. So I'm excited for that. I'm hoping the romance is a little bit more there in that. The build up in the relationship in that one. But yeah, I really highly recommend this one. Even though I said, even though I might have had like that like issue with it, it wasn't a bad book by any means, and I really enjoyed it. I read it very quickly. It was very fast paced. That's something that's great. The pacing in this is really great. There's never really like a dull moment or anything like that. Like I kept wanting to read it. I wanted to know what happened. Yeah, I can't say I was like super surprised with the outcome, but it was still a really fun read. I really recommend this one. Okay, so the next book I read, because the main female character in it was named Kimberly, and I was trying to find a book with a main character Kimberly, and there's just not a lot out there. So, you know, why? Why don't we have more Kimberlys out there in the literary world? I had a hard time finding one, but so this was Black Knight by Rena Kent. Main character, female character's name is Kimberly. Male main character's name is Xander. I gave this book 3 stars and 2 chili peppers. I've always said I'll never count an author out if I just read one book and don't love it. But I know people love Rena Kent, and just from this book, okay, I don't really get the hype. But like I said, I'm not counting her out. I do still want to try other books by her. And I will say this book is the 4th book of an interconnected standalone series. So I do understand that, like, because I skipped the first 3 books, maybe I am missing something. But I will say, and I do feel like I was. Okay, so this is kind of like a bully romance, or it's said to be a bully romance, but I think a lot of the bullying happens in previous books. I mean, there's a little bit of it in this. This is kind of like a childhood friends to lovers kind of thing. But I just felt like I didn't really know the characters all that well. Like, I guess we got to know Kimberly probably the best. But like, there's supposed to be like this friend group. I felt like I didn't really know them well. I felt like I was like, it felt like I was reading the 4th book in a series. And I get it. Like, I get that that's my fault. But I also feel like if you say that these are standalones in an interconnected world, interconnected standalones, that, and you're marketing like that I can read this book without reading the others, I think you as an author, you need to make sure it doesn't feel so much like that. Like, I've read another book I've read this month that I'll get to later is technically a 2nd book in an interconnected standalone, and I didn't feel that way. Like, I didn't feel like I felt reading I keep wanting to call this book Dark Knight because of the movie Dark Knight, but it's not. It's called Black Knight. I didn't feel the same way about that. Like, I didn't feel lost. Where in like Black Knight, I'm not going to say I felt lost, but it definitely like felt like, okay, there's a lot of the story I'm missing here. There's like this whole backstory with Xander when he was younger that I'm definitely missing here, that I just got like a tiny bit of. So I do wonder that if I had read the whole thing, if I would feel differently about this book. Maybe I would have felt more connected to the characters. I guess like if I would have known more of it, maybe I would be rooting more for this couple. Yeah, I don't know. The whole time I just felt like there was a missing puzzle piece that I was just not privy to. Like I said, the writing, it's not like the writing was horrible, but it wasn't like great either. That's why I'm just kind of like, is this how Rena Kent's all her books are? People love her and rave about her, and I'm like, maybe she's not for me. Like I said, I'm gonna give her another shot eventually one day. I know there's like, she has her whole universe, so it's like kind of like daunting to get to read it all. But yeah, just okay. It was just okay. It's, again, like one of those books. I read it, I did it. Am I thinking about it anymore? No. Do I like really care? No, not really. It was just, it was just there. But like I said, I am gonna give her another shot eventually. Do I know when? No. I have no idea. But at some point in the future, I'll try reading another one of her books. But yeah, overall just felt a little like, yeah, I'm definitely reading the 4th book of a series here. And yeah, it was just fine. Okay, the next book I read was The New Guy by Sarina Bowen. I read this one because it's a sports romance, which is one of my favorites. So this is the first book I've read just by Sarina Bowen. I've read a lot of her books. They're up here on my sports romance. She writes a lot, or she did write a lot. I don't know if like that was an old thing. They don't do that anymore or whatever. But she co-authored a lot of books with Elle Kennedy. Elle Kennedy writes a lot of sports romance books as well. And I always really enjoy the books I read by the both of them. Are they like reinventing the wheel or anything? No. Did this book? No. It was very like pretty predictable. I've read like the stuff that kind of happens. So we got sports romance here. We have Hudson, who is, a hockey player. He's like been traded a lot of times, and he's starting all over again, traded again to this new team. He's starting over. A lot of the tropes in here are like pretty typical to like sports romance series. Um, but I don't know. I really enjoyed this. I gave it 4 stars, 2 chili peppers. I had a good time reading it. I read it very quickly. There's something about um I think the relationship between Hudson and Gavin is really like sweet. I enjoyed getting to know them and them getting to know each other. Um, Gavin is a single dad. I liked that added aspect of the book. But yeah, I think they were a cute couple. I think it was a sweet book. I enjoyed it. Like I said, is it reinventing the wheel? No, but it's like, I think there's something about a sports romance. It's just such a comfort read for me. So maybe I tend to be a little easier on rating them. I don't know. There's just something about them that I just really love and I really enjoy, and I could just always read a sports romance. I think I talked about this before. If I haven't read a sports romance in a while, like I literally start to have withdrawals. And I've noticed lately kind of feeling that a little bit more because I'm having these like set TBRs, which obviously before I started making content, I never did, right? I definitely had books I wanted to try to read in a month or something, but like never had like the set TBR. It was very much like a mood reader and just like whatever I felt like, or if like a book caught my attention like on social media, I would read that or whatever. And I'm not gonna lie, I miss that a little bit because sports romance were like my thing. Like I would read a lot. I would just find a random series and binge them. And were they always like the best? No, but like I said, there's just something about a sports romance that I love. I just love so much. It's just such a comfort to me. It's not that safe space for me where I'm always gonna just be drawn back to. So yeah, I liked this. I thought it was cute. Like I said, hockey romance, single dad, a little bit of a grump sunshine. I don't know. It's kind of marketed as a grump sunshine. I don't think Hudson's like that grumpy. But yeah, like a nice little okay. So I've been talking about the other ones like it's like very like insta lovey, insta obsession. Like this one, it's more like you get that like I said, you get to know them, and then you get to experience them falling for each other. Like it's a little bit slower, that's what I love. I love that. I think I'm totally in between like slow burn and insta love. Like I don't know. I just want it to like be kind of a natural progression, like in so getting to know the characters and them getting to know each other. And I think that this book had that like kind of like perfect little pacing of that. Yeah, I recommend it. I like this enough to continue the series. I'm planning on reading the second one this month. I think it's called I'm Your Guy. There's 3 books out so far. I don't know if there's going to be more because I know the 3rd book just recently came out. But yeah, if you want like a cute male sports romance, give this one a shot. Okay, the next book I read was called Bonded by Thorns by Elizabeth Helen, and I guess I didn't realize this until today. I guess it's a duo. I think they're sisters, and that's what their names, like Elizabeth and Helen, so they just marketed their name as like author name as Elizabeth Helen. I thought that was kind of cool. So I picked this book last month because it's a Why Choose, which is another one of my favorite tropes. And it was also marketed as a dark retelling of Beauty and the Beast. And Beauty and the Beast is my favorite Disney princess movie. I'm sure, I don't know if you've seen any of my vlogs. You probably have seen my Beast and Belle pop that I have up there. And this book was okay. I gave this book 3 stars, 1 chili pepper. It might have been 2 chili. Actually, it probably is closer. It's probably more like a 2 chili pepper. There's not a lot of spice in this book though. But I guess the scenes that are there are pretty spicy. So this is a 4-book series. I am going to continue it. I will say that right at the bat. I am actually going to continue it this month. I have the 2nd book on my TBR for the month of May. So I guess I can't say, like I didn't hate it, right? I liked it enough to continue the series, but like I said, it was just okay. I think I'm I think I'm going off of hope that it gets better because the ratings do get better. The Goodreads ratings are better for like the second, third, and fourth book. So I am hoping that that rings true, that the series does get better. Basically, okay, if something is a retelling, okay, for example, ACOTAR is also a retelling, a loose retelling of Beauty and the Beast, okay? But it's not spoon-fed to me that it's a retelling of Beauty and the Beast. I am intelligent, and I don't even think you have to be that intelligent to understand the parallels and why it is considered a retelling of Beauty and the Beast. I wish these authors would have taken the same approach. This is like spoon-fed to you at some points that it is a retelling of Beauty and the Beast, going so far as to having exact lines from the movie, so the Disney Beauty and the Beast, in this book, which just had me rolling my eyes. I'm not gonna lie. Like, that to me is really annoying. Like, I don't need it to be, I don't need that. Now, there were also some subtle little hints that I was like, oh, see, okay, that's what I want. For like my retelling information, okay? So I'm not gonna lie, that to me was a little annoying, and I'm hoping that now like the first book's done, the setup is done, like that won't be in the further book in like the other books in the series. So hopefully like that like little bit of annoyance won't be there in books 2, 3, 4. If I get that far, like, because I am gonna read book 2 this month, and I will assess if I'm gonna continue on from there. So that to me was a bit annoying. Another thing that annoyed me is I felt like Rosalind, so our main character's name's Rosalind, her personality, she's just not written well. I hate saying really negative things. So like how this premise is set up is very much like, again, Beauty and the Beast. So it starts in like the modern world, like I think in the Pacific Northwest, I think like Seattle, more maybe Portland, Seattle area, like Pacific Northwest for sure. Okay. And Rosalind's father, he's like the, town crazy guy, like he believes that there's a world of Fae. So he's like always trying to look for this world of Fae, and obviously everyone in the town thinks he's crazy, and in Toa thinks she's weird. So very much, Beauty and the Beast. And like when she is here in like the modern world, she's very like quiet, very like shy, very, meek, right? And like, that's like her personality. She's like literally going to just marry this guy who's like obviously like our Gaston character, who's like horrible. I mean, he's not good to her because like, I don't know, because she's so like, meek and whatever, she's not gonna like stick up for herself or anything like that, right? So like that's her character in the beginning of this book in the modern world. And then her, her dad makes it to the Fae world, and she goes and bargains to take his place, very, again, Belly a la Beauty and the Beast. And then when she's in the Fae world, she's like strong and assertive and sticks up for herself, and it's just kind of very confusing. There's nothing that happens in the book besides her going there. Like, there's no event, like, where you feel like her character grew to go from this to this. She just decides, I guess, here, oh, I can be this. So it's just, like, very, I don't know. I just felt like it could have been written much better. I feel like it could have been approached better. Her character's just, the switch is just, like, night and day. And there's just, like, no growth for her to get there. I would have enjoyed that more. Like, if we had some things that were happening that made us feel like she was growing self-confidence and stuff like that. Like, I didn't really just enjoy this whole switch of character in it. So that's why, like I said, it's just okay. The males in it, which is something else that's a little annoying. She calls them men, and like, they're not men, they're fae, so they should just be called males. Another, like, I guess that's like I might be like a little bit nitpicky of a detail, but typically, you know, if you read these things, if you read a lot of like fae fantasy, like, they're never called men because they're not, they're males. That is a little more, and there's like some really cringy dialogue in this book too. But yeah, I don't know. Like, the four males, they're fine. Yeah, like, they're fine. There's like, yeah, I don't know. I like, is there anything very surprising about it? No. Is it very like obvious what's gonna happen? To me it was. But like I said, so it's just okay. I know that sounds like really bad. I'm just saying a lot of the bad things, but I can't deny, like, I'm like, okay, well, I'm intrigued enough to keep going. I think I am hoping that there is some growth after what happens at the end, or whatever, that there is some growth through the characters, that maybe I'm hoping these things that kind of annoyed me in the first book are like not there in the other books. So yeah, like I said, it was okay. Obviously has me intrigued enough to continue on. Like I said, I'm going to read the second one this month, and I'll reassess. If I like the second one a lot, I'm hoping that I'll just kind of finish the series this month and read all the other two. But if I'll say, if I feel like I feel now after book 2, I don't know if I'll continue. I might cut that book off because I think that there's probably better choices out there to continue and take up my time. Okay. We have 2 books left that I read in April, and the next book is Drive by Kate Stewart. This has been a long time coming for me. I've been wanting to read this book for a long time. I talk about Kate Stewart here quite a bit because she wrote the Ravenhood series. You can't see them, they're on a frame, which is probably, it's just one of my favorite series of all time as of now. So I've always wanted to read these. This is her, Drive is part of a 2-book series, and it also has a novella, but it's called The Bittersweet Symphony. I always have such a hard time saying it. Bittersweet Symphony Duet. There, I got it. And what a fitting freaking name for this. I've only read this one. I still need to read Reverse, which is on my TBR for May. But bittersweet is such a good word for this. I don't want to talk about it too much, because go into too much about this, because I do feel like some of the tropes in this and stuff are like maybe more spoilery than other books. But just so you know, I gave this book 5 stars. 2 chili peppers. We have, I have to try to decide what I want to say about this. Look, Kate knows how to write yearning. Like, she knows how to write heartbreak. Like, there's just something about her, like, writing where I'm just always, it just makes, I can't even explain how it makes me feel. It's just like kind of like an unsettling feeling. And you're just never quite sure what direction she's gonna take it. And I can say that's how I felt about this. Our main character in this, his name is Stella. I think she's a good character. Something about Cecilia. So Cecilia is the main female character in Ravenhood, and my first read through, I think she annoyed me a little bit. Second read through, she didn't as much. I think I understood her more. Stella, I felt like, was a little less annoying through this first read. But she definitely writes female characters who are very much kind of ruled by their emotions. And I think that's fair because they are young. Her female characters are young, and I think that's, that happens a lot to us when we're young and we're, hormones and all that going on, right? I think Stella is 19. I think she's 19. But yeah, so her female characters are very much driven by their emotions, in trying to, I think they try not to let their emotions rule them, but you know, it's hard. I don't know. I don't really want to say too much about this because the main trope in this, I don't really want to talk about it. But I say, especially if you liked The Ravenhood, if you read that, I think you will like this one. Again, I haven't read Reverse yet, so I'm nervous to read Reverse. Yeah, I don't know. I'm nervous to read Reverse. Reverse is like double the size of this, and I'm just kind of scared where that goes. But I just say give this a shot. Like, her books are never gonna be like feel good, straightforward contemporary romances. I feel like her books are kind of like hard to. Maybe they're more realistic romances. There's like more conflict, more angst. Angst is probably a good way to say it. Yeah. If that sounds like your cup of tea, definitely read these. They're really good. I could have put it down. I'll just say that I could not put this book down, which is why I gave it 5 stars. I think, like, I've talked about this before. A book doesn't need to be perfect, because I don't believe there is. I don't believe there's such a thing. I don't think there's a perfect book out there in the world. I think that there may be perfect books for people, like, but I think, like, probably, I don't know, anyone can always find some flaw in it. But if a book is so to the point where, like, I just cannot put it down, and as long as it doesn't like go like completely like the opposite way, I don't know, like off the deep end in the end, I'm usually gonna probably give it 5 stars, because it's just, it draws me in and I just want to keep reading it, and this one definitely did that for me. So yeah, I loved this one. Okay, so the last book I read, I picked because I picked a book that gave like spring vibes, since my birthday was in spring. And I had this one sitting on my shelf for actually a whole year, because I bought this last year for my birthday. And it was such a good surprise. Practice Makes Perfect by Sarah Adams. This is not normal for me. I did this one as audio, and I loved this audiobook. I gave this 4.5 stars. Like a half of a chili pepper, not even a full chili pepper. I loved this book, and I don't know. Okay, so typically, the reason why I say I don't love audiobooks is because I don't feel like I connect to the book as well as I do when I physically read it. And I think there's been times where I've chanced doing an audiobook and I just didn't really like, I don't know, I just didn't connect with the book. That's why typically I only really listen to audiobooks as rereads. Like currently right now I'm rereading the whole Windy City series with audio, because I've already read them physically once before. But this one I kind of wonder if it's the opposite. I wonder if I would have liked this book as much if I read it physically, because especially the woman, I wish I should have looked it up. The woman narrator in this, she just captured Annie so well. I think she just did a perfect job. So we have Annie and Will in this. This is like a small town, like kind of like a fake dating slash dating, coach. Like he's like, she's really wanting to find a husband and get married and have her have, like, you know, have her kids, her white picket fence, like typical like dream, American dream. And she's just having no luck. Like she's just had she's like, the last date she went on, like he thought she was boring, and she's just like doesn't know, like she gets like nervous and she just doesn't know how to act on dates. So enter Will. He says he'll help her, like kind of be like her relationship coach, her dating coach. So they like enter fake dating, you know, to the town, because it's a small town. It's kind of funny because her name's Annie Walker, which is the main character from Bridesmaids. And every time they said Annie Walker, and I was like, that sounds so familiar. So I like Googled Annie Walker, and like Bridesmaids popped up. I was like, oh, okay. That's why that name sounds so familiar to me. But Annie, I think is just such a sweet female character. I think she's a little different. I know Annie just felt a little like different to me. She's like a little bit more reserved. She's like has this persona of being this nickname Angel Annie to like her siblings and to the town, and everyone just thinks she's just like this sweet little, you know, perfect girl, and she's like tired of that. Like she doesn't want that to be everything, but she is a really sweet character. There's just something about her I really liked. I really liked Will too. But yeah, I don't know, the audiobook was just so good for this that I don't know, it was 4.5 stars, easy for me. And I kind of wonder what I would have thought if I read it just read it physically. I think I owe a lot to, like I said, the female narrator in this. But yeah, they're just a really cute couple. Their story's cute, very sweet. I felt like their communication was really good. I really enjoyed that part of it. So there was really no like, you know, worry about like miscommunication or anything like that. There's this cute thing where she calls him all these little random like Will names that I thought was like really cute throughout the book. Yeah, I really like this book. So I was talking about earlier how I read like the 4th book of a series, and it felt very much like I was coming in the middle. This is the 2nd book of this interconnected standalone series, and again, I didn't feel like it. Like obviously I could tell who the couple was in the 1st book because they're getting married in this book, and it's like Annie's brother. But I didn't feel like I was missing anything. I didn't feel confused about anything reading the 2nd book before I read the 1st book. The 1st book's called When in Rome, and like I said, I liked this so much that I think I will try to will attempt the other books in the series. I know there's 3 out, and I know there's gonna be, so there's 2 other books other than this one out, and there's another one, but I'm not positive if it's out yet or if it's coming out this year. I think that's going to be the last book in the series. Yeah, I don't know. This was just really sweet. It was just a quick little sweet read. I don't know. I really liked this. I don't know. I really highly recommend it. I highly recommend the audio. I loved it so much. It didn't bother me. You know, I think I've said before, a lot of times it bothers me. It was like the males do the female voices, females do the male voices. It didn't bother me too much in this. Like I said, I think that they were so good, you know, when they were, you know, themselves, that it didn't bother me as much when they would do like the other voice, the guy voice or the girl voice. Yeah, this was so sweet. I highly recommend it. I don't know, it's just like a little feel good read. There you go. So that's it. Those were the 9 books I read in April. It was a good month. You know, some 5-star reads there. Drive, Say You Remember Me, Practice Makes Perfect was really high up there. Phantasma. I mean, it was just a good month. I really enjoyed a lot of the books I read this month. And yeah, I don't know. We did not meet that goal of 10, but that's okay. I will get to Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry eventually. Hopefully soon-ish, this month maybe. I don't know. I'm trying not to stress about it. But I am still really excited to read that. I have heard mixed things though. I've heard that it's not a typical Emily Henry book. That the romance kind of takes like a back seat. But that's okay. I'm not like deterred by that by any means. I'm still excited to read it because I think that she's just a really good writer. So I think that even if romance isn't like the main thing in that book, I'm still gonna enjoy it. But we'll see when I get to it. But yeah, let me know what your top reads were in April. Did you read any of the new releases? Because Say You Remember It was a new release. Change of Pace was a new release. Great Big Beautiful Life was a new release. If you read it, let me know what you thought about that. So I know what to expect, or maybe not what to expect, but let me just know if you guys liked it so I can kind of gauge maybe how I'll feel about it. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, I would love it if you liked, commented, and subscribed, and I'll see you in the next video.